Alright, so I do got a playlist. It was very last moment, so we'll get that started. Just to have something playing in the background there. And let me fix the title up here. We'll change it to just chatting. I should just put Just Dance. You know what? Why not? Just put Just Dance. Okay, let's clap. That indicates the that we are moving on to this. So, this is not something I do too often, but I was in the mood. I was like wanting to do this again, especially after a big game like Final Fantasy IV. That I want to touch up my top RPG list. I mentioned time and time and again that I have started doing this list of RPG games. I've been going back. I've been replaying the RPGs I grew up with. I've been playing new ones. Nothing but RPGs, and I've been pretty excited about going through this list and playing a lot of these old games that I played before and whatnot. So, before I started, I want to try to get the exact date when you can say I started this. So, basically, whatever was the first playthrough of an RPG I did on my YouTube as a regular playthrough is the first game that I put on this list that I've been doing. So let me just see which one what that was. That might have been Rhapsody. Rhapsody might have been the first. No, it was Mystic Quest. Mystic Quest was the first one, okay. But Rhapsody was after that one, in terms of RPGs. God, that was 2016. Wow. So we'll just say, I'm going to put it down here. So that's what you could say was technically when I started doing this list. Really, I didn't start doing this until later on, and then I'm like, okay. The games that I did playthroughs on my YouTube is going to be where I'm going to start with my list. But yeah, by technicality, that's when you can say this journey of mine started. But truth be told, it didn't start until maybe last year or so. But yeah, I had randomized the list here of all the games, so I don't know what the old order was. And yeah, this is 2 RPG Maker games that I legitimately gave a shot and just was not really into. So unfortunately, those won't make the list. So this, like I mentioned before, I've done this once before, but this is not something I'm gonna do too often. Maybe every once in a while I'll get a hanger into it until I get to hopefully the end of this decade. Knock on wood. That I will hopefully by then have 100 RPGs and I'll have everything to go and be able to present something pretty funny. But for now, we got 19 games here, and I was in the mood. I wanted to reorganize and everything. So let's just go ahead and start. As we got Lisa the Painful music going on in the background. Which, speaking of, Lisa the Painful, I quietly discontinued that playthrough, but it will appear on stream, so I'm gonna redo that at some point. But yeah, okay. So, number 1 is Cindy's World. Obviously, since it's the first one, it'll go to number 1 right now. Cindy's World. I'll just be kind of... at least I'll try to be brief with some of these entries. Cindy's World was a wonderful RPG Maker game. It was so weird, so odd. It gave birth to King Nicholas, as he kind of became an unofficial mascot for my streaming thing. King Nicholas is great. He's a great character. But, yeah, Cindy's World was a fun time. I feel like that was the first big game I played on stream that I just enjoyed having a good time with. Homer was there, View was there, Smooth was there at some points. View and Smooth was there for some points. And, Homer was there for all of the ride for Cindy's World. And it was just a fun time. I had a fantastic time with Cindy's World. I disagree with the creator saying this can be anybody's first RPG. I think it does some things there that I don't think really would be good for a first timer to RPGs. But yeah, Cindy's World was so baffling. I loved it, and it legitimately had some good music in it. Believe it or not, it might even pop up on here. You know what? While I'm talking about Cindy's World, I'm actually gonna pull up one of the songs right now. Not that one. I want to do I legitimately enjoyed the song from Cindy's World. It's pretty good. It sounds a little weird in my headphones because it's messed up a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, Cindy's World. Currently, if we're not taking Lisa into account, Lisa's World is like my favorite traditional RPG Maker game I've played so far. I mean, you can say Lisa the Painful or Lisa the Point. Well, Lisa the Painful's not on here yet, but Lisa the Pointless you can say is traditional as well in terms of RPG Maker games. But I legitimately love Cindy's World. Okay. Now here's a recent one. Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. I think I was actually mentioning it earlier on the stream. Final Fantasy IV while we were playing that before this. Pixel Remaster, I think is very, very good. I had a fantastic time going back and playing Final Fantasy. I think it's really cool that I think legitimately, I think you can point at this and say this is the best possible way if you want to experience the original intent of Final Fantasy 1 with how they handled the MP system and whatnot to play this version. I think it's really good. I don't think it's nearly as good as the PSP version in my opinion, but the PSP version's not here right now. Maybe someday. But Pixel Remaster, I was pretty excited about the Pixel Remaster. It's a shame that it's not on other systems. Okay, I'm getting off track here. Let's focus, Josh. Pixel Remaster, Final Fantasy. Really, really enjoyed it. I think it is legitimately a good way to experience Final Fantasy. The original Final Fantasy. You don't have to worry about the bugs of Final Fantasy 1 on NES. It doesn't have some of the additions that later versions of Final Fantasy had, which I think is fine in this particular case, because if you weren't going to include the things that later versions of Final Fantasy included, you would have to do a total rebalance just because of the MP system and whatnot. But yeah, if anybody ever wants to play the original version of Final Fantasy, this is a really good way of doing it. And I really enjoy Final Fantasy. I mean, this ain't the first RPG game by any stretch of the means, but Final Fantasy is, it's good. It's very good. I will currently put it above Cindy's World. Also, we got some Disgaea 5 music going in the background. So, Lisa. So, this ain't Lisa the Painful. This is the Lisa game that came before Painful. This counts as an RPG with me. So, some of these games might be eye-scratching or head-scratching about why I'm included on the list in the first place. basically, if a game was made in RPG Maker app, that's sort of my way of being able to include it into this. And if you want to get technical, Lisa, the original Lisa, was meant to have a boss fight in it at one point. But, Lisa. Lisa's it's a very dark game. This would be the start of the Lisa series. Which is kind of funny because Lisa Painful originally was not even intended to be a sequel to Lisa. Which, I mean, I'm glad it is. But, Lisa it's a very dark game. Let's not kid ourselves. Lisa is a very dark game. It's a very dark series. It's just, the dark comedy of Lisa really, with the later on games, helps it not be so grim and dark. Lisa, on the other hand, yeah, you can make the argument that, yeah, Lisa, the original Lisa, has that dark comedy aspect to it, but not as much as later games in the series. But I think Lisa is a really good story. It's very dark. It's very messed up. And you know, not every story has to be cheery, you know, and whatnot. There are stories that are dark, and Lisa is very much one of them. I am gonna put it below Cindy's World. Don't know what happened there. Because it isn't a traditional RPG. Like, it is, like, its connection to Lisa the Painful and the fact that it was made in RPG Maker is why it really is here. But I think it's enough to qualify it to be on this list. But, it is very straight point about what you need to do. Also, Final Fantasy X. But, yeah, Lisa. I don't think I'm doing this, list too good. This is why this is kind of infrequent about me doing this. In fact, after this, I'm probably not even going to be doing this until I at least get 100 games on this list. But anyway, I say that now. But, yeah, Lisa. Dark story. There's puzzles often, but it's really straightforward with what it wants to do. And it, yeah. And it would later on, you know, bring up Lisa Painful and Lisa Joyful. Alright, next one. Super Robot Wars OG, original generation. This was a very fun time I had streaming this. I met a lot of new people with this game as well, streaming this. And my buddy Homer, he greatly helped me out with this too. I am so glad to finally get into the Super Robot Wars franchise and series. And it's something that's always been on my radar, but this game, original generation's got an English release, or not English release, but an English patch, which, man, I legitimately enjoy my time with Super Robot Wars OG. I love the characters, I love the mechanics. This game was a real treat. I legitimately enjoyed myself, and, like I was about to say before I interrupt myself, which is kind of weird to say, but, after Cindy's World, this was probably the next game that I played on stream that I really, like, had a lot of fun with. Like, I had a super great time with original generations. Like I said, I love all the characters. There was really not that many down points with this game. Like, legitimately, the only down point I had was the first Tempest fight. Which, to be fair, I guess I did play Ryusei's storyline first. And he is harder compared to Kyosuke's. But other than that first Tempest fight, and you can actually chalk that to being still unfamiliar with the game at that point in the game. And everything else, I had a grand time. Great music too. Like Time Diver. Oh my god, there's so much good music with this. And that is something to take into account too, because when I'm ranking these RPGs, you know, everything, the package itself is being ranked. This is how I feel. This is, at the moment, this is how I feel about it. I want to put this above Remaster. I think Super Robot Wars Original Generation is a fantastic game. I'm so glad it got an English patch, so a lot more people can enjoy it. And this is my first Super Robot Wars game, and I'm so glad I picked this one. And it's a really good entry for anybody who wants to play Super Robot Wars Original Generations. Super good game. I'm looking forward to playing OG2 soon. Like, really, really soon. Heck, and I'll also say, Original Generations wants me to keep replaying it. It does have that replay value to it, because you can keep doing multiple cycles, getting more money, and your save will carry over to the next game, which I need to get on that. But yeah, highly, 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 highly good game. Next up, Little Princess. So this is the sequel to Rhapsody, a musical adventure. This never came out in the United States. But I'm kind of hoping that NIS is actually... Because they've been recently doing these volume collections for Switch. And a part of me hopes that they will take the Meryl Kingdom games and put it into a collection. I'm really hoping for that. But, okay, let's get back. So, Little Princess, this was a regular playthrough on my YouTube channel before I started streaming. Whenever I do these games, I try to do as 100% as possible to try to get the full experience out of it. Unfortunately, Little Princess, because there was a little bit of a translation barrier there. Because there was no patch for this, but there was a translation script. But unfortunately, that script didn't translate every single thing. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a full experience of it. But I did the best. And I had a fun time experiencing Little Princess. It's a shame it never came out in the United States. But I understand why. It was a little niche, and there was some a little... I guess back then, a little bit of the humor was a little eyebrow raising. That might have been a reason why it didn't come over as well. I think it would have done very well. I think this improves. Funny enough, Rhapsody's next, but this was in a random order. Little Princess improves a lot on Rhapsody. It changes to the battles in general. For the better, I feel like, to the point where the re-release of Rhapsody adopted the Little Princess battle mechanic. The only thing I did not really enjoy about Little Princess, honestly, was how if you want to use skills, that it takes money to use skills. I wasn't a big fan of that mechanic, but you really didn't notice it as you got to in-game. You really didn't notice that at all. But it was something in the back of your mind as you were playing. It was like, okay, I can't be using these skills all the time because I got to save this money for stuff. But I'll be honest, I didn't really use bot weapons and all that too much. You might be able to chalk that up to being in Japanese, and I wasn't fully understanding like some of the descriptions of some items. To be fair, yes. But the fact that I was able to get through it without buying too much stuff, I think, shows that it's not so much of a difficult game as long as you're at a good enough level. And throughout the game, I did level up because in this game you can also recruit monsters. Or not? Well, yeah, you can recruit monsters, but they're part of your equipment. They're not like party members like Rhapsody was. But overall, I enjoyed Little Princess. Maybe someday somebody might do an English translation for it, or even possibly NIS might bring it over one day. I think that actually has a higher possibility now that they're bringing some games to Switch. But yeah, Little Princess. Where do I want to rank this at? What I usually do is I'll put it on the list, and then I'll look at it and see if I feel comfortable with that. This song sounds really weird with only one channel on. Holy cow. And it's an Undertale song. That's funny. But, oh, no, I'm looking at the wrong song. Never mind. This ain't... Ignore me. I can't read. This is Lisa Joyful Undertale. Yeah, this is totally an Undertale song. But yeah, I'm even thinking about putting this above Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. I gotta be honest. Like, I'm looking at it now. Let me put it there and see how I feel. I think I might be alright with that. Yeah, I think I'm alright with that. Originally, before I actually restarted this, I was actually... Pixel Remaster was actually really high on this list. But sometimes you gotta give these games some time so you can actually process it, digest it, and I'm like, okay. After some time, now where can I rank this? Alright, Rhapsody, a musical adventure. So, automatically, I am gonna put this below Little Princess. Because, in a way, I do like Rhapsody more than Little Princess. But I love the battle system in Little Princess more. Now, if this was the DS version, that's a different story, but this ain't the DS version. Question is, would I rank this above Pixel Remaster? I'm actually kind of surprised I'm finding this easy to put it above Pixel Remaster. This list is always going to be changing. Like, some days I'm just going to feel differently than others. I'll be completely frank. Because originally I had Pixel Remaster above Original Generation, so I won't even lie. But the way I'm thinking about it more, Original Generations just was... I fell in love with the Original Generations cast. Erm is the highlight. But, yeah, see, I'm thinking maybe I might want to put Rhapsody above Little Princess. How do I feel about that? See, and now in the back of my head, I'm like, would I be alright with this? In some ways, I am, but I don't know. I'm trying to be objective too, but at the end of the day, this is my personal list. I feel like I'm all right with this. And I feel like it's just more because Rhapsody was released over here in North America, and this was actually before NIS was its own thing. Atlas actually published it over here, but I think I'm all right with that. If maybe this game came out in English, I might feel differently. But because yeah, I had a script to help me out with this game. But just having the game in English helps it out a lot. Like, heck, I'll be honest. If I played Original Generation in just the original language without the English, it might actually not be as high because I enjoyed the camaraderie. Oh my god, I appreciate that word. The interactions between the characters. Like, I fell in love with the characters in Original Generations. But going back to Original Generations, you don't even have to have prior knowledge to Super Robot Wars, which is great. Because that was one of the intimidating factors when it came to Super Robot Wars. But thanks to OG, you don't really have to have that problem. Yeah, there might be, like, callbacks here and there, possibly, but I got through the game just fine without any other knowledge about Super Robot Wars, other than knowing that it exists, and there's crossovers and whatnot. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Okay, Mystic Quest. Okay. We can say a lot of things about Mystic Quest. This was also, again, that I did original playthrough of before streaming. Mystic Quest will always have that place in my heart, because it was my first ever RPG. Even people who hate this game love the soundtrack to this game. The soundtrack is fantastic in Mystic Quest. And it's also Final Fantasy. Not only was this my first RPG, this was my first Final Fantasy game. And it's kind of funny because I went from this to 7. That's the order of Final Fantasy games I went. Also, we got King Nicholas's theme here. Well, one of them anyway. So let's see. to me, Mystic Quest has a lot of charm that I love about it. Like, legitimately, I think, there's a lot of charm with Mystic Quest. With the way it handles its mechanics and battle system. I get that the story's not fantastic. But the point of it was to try to get people into RPG. Not Final Fantasy, but RPGs in general. Currently, this is how I feel right now with Mystic Quest. And nostalgia is playing a huge part in that. I will admit. Nostalgia is a very huge part of me doing that. As much as I can make the argument about putting it above original generations, I can't, because original generations is such a good game. And as much as I love Mystic Quest, I don't think Mystic Quest can beat original generations. Man, I'm surprised how low Pistol Remaster is right now. See, now I'm looking at Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. Yeah, you know what? And actually... Yep. Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. This list is always going to be changing. It's probably never going to be 100%, I'll be honest. But it's fun doing this every once in a while. I'm comfortable with this right now. Yeah. Yeah, I'm alright with this. Alright. F-Zero RPG Remake. This one's actually quite easy. I streamed this not too long ago. I think out of all the RPGs I played for this list so far, I think it's legitimately probably not the greatest. The level cap frustrated me. Okay. Okay, we're gonna put aside that this is like a fan fiction kind of thing. Which there are quite a bit like a fan fiction-y RPG Maker games. But you can do that and have a good RPG, I feel like. The characterization... But you also have to keep in mind that a character has to act like a character. And yeah, Captain Falcon probably doesn't have too much of a character arc. If you take Smash Brothers and the F-Zero series in general. But there's a lot of weird stuff here in terms of characterization, especially when it comes to Samus and Fox being here. But, okay, there's a characterization. The level cap. I never even did the bonus battles. Like, because of that level cap, I'm like, no, I'm alright. I'm not doing these bonus battles. Realistic Snake, though, was pretty funny. The realistic animal bosses being a thing is pretty funny. It's very bizarre. I'm not gonna knock anybody who likes it. I really won't. And the person who made this is probably a genuine person, let's be fair. And whenever I'm doing these kind of stuff, I don't mean no ill harm to people who made the games themselves. Like, whenever I'm making fun of the game, I'm making fun of the game. I'm not necessarily making fun of the person behind the game unless they're a terrible person, like, as in, god-awful person. Which I'm sure the person who made this RPG F-Zero game is not a terrible person. I'm sure this person is perfectly fine. But the game itself is just, it's bottom of the list for me right now. It's just, I don't know. And this is a remake, so I honestly cannot imagine how the original version was. And there's 4 games in the series, and Homer wants me to play the second one. It's not in the realms of possibility. It might come up at some point, but for the foreseeable future, I'm alright. Oops. Don't know why that keeps happening. Dying Flame. Okay, so I'm actually pretty excited to do a RPG horror game. Well, I guess you could say Lisa is an RPG horror game. But Dying Flame, I would say, was like the first RPG horror game I did. And shoutouts to the people who made the game, who reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to play this and review it, or something like that? We'll give you a review code and whatnot." And I will forever be grateful to those people. And honestly, they did a really good job with Dying Flame. They took some inspiration. You can see some inspiration from Silent Hill here and there. But this is actually a really good little RPG Maker horror game. And this is something I'm probably going to be looking more into in the future, because I know RPG Maker horror games is a kind of a big thing. But I'm glad Dying Flame was like the first one I really looked into, because it's really good. They did a really good job with Dying Flame. And once again, shout outs to the people who, you know, went out of their way to say, "Hey, would you be willing to do this?" And I'd be like, "Sure." But I am going to be honest. I gotta be honest, I gotta be fair. There was one point where I did get confused, but the game was brand new. And that was another thing, too, with Dying Flame. The game being brand new and people trying to figure out all the things, trying to get different endings and whatnot. I was looking at other smaller YouTubers who got the game as well. Just trying to figure out everything. That was really fun. It was really fun figuring out a brand new game that nobody knows anything about. Just trying to figure things out. Some of the puzzles was a little too complex for me. That I did have to look up some of the stuff. Legit, I think there was some here that I just feel like nobody would have figured out. But then again, I could be wrong. People could have probably figured it out just fine. This game actually made me pull out a notebook and write down puzzles, which is great. That that I'm actually thinking about it. But yeah, Dying Flame. Really enjoying my time. I think it's really, really good. It's a little complex. I think anybody who's playing this will have to look up something for it to help them out, trying to get the best ending for sure. But this is where it starts to get a little tricky, because yeah, this is their RPGs, but RPGs are so different. And I am counting this as a an RPG, even though it's not a traditional RPG, but it wasn't made in RPG Maker. There is stats there and whatnot. I am alright with putting this here, above Cindy's World, because the atmosphere is very well in this. I'm even inside my head, I'm like, maybe I can even put this above Pixel Remaster, but no, I don't think I'm gonna go that far with it. And even then, I think Cindy's World might edge out by the end of this little this thing I'm doing, that it might be above Dying Flame. But for right now, I'm comfortable with putting Dying Flame here. Really good RPG Maker horror game. I recommend it. Oh, speaking of RPG Maker, still in Steam Episode 1. I got this randomly on Steam. Usually when I pick up games on Steam, it's usually when they're on sale. Or if it's something that I really, really, really want, like the Pixel Remaster games, whatnot. I usually buy those pretty early on. But yeah, still in Steam. I purchased that when it went on sale. This game you can no longer get on Steam. They delisted it. From what I understand, there was a little bit of controversy with this game because it was a Kickstarter game. And because they delisted this now, they're kind of not going through it now, it looks like. The company is still around. It looks like they're actually doing a lot of VR games now. But, so yeah, still in Steam Episode 1 is an incomplete game. It is and it isn't. Like, we have the complete version of Episode 1. Well, we did have the complete version of Episode 1. Still in Steam. Seems like it takes some inspiration from Phantasy Star, which is an RPG franchise I'm not really too familiar with. Maybe that later down the road I would like to try some of them. But yeah, still in Steam. Also, Persona music. I enjoyed my time with it. It did some things that I thought was really neat. It did some things that I thought was really silly. Like the FMV summon video. I think that was hilariously great. There was probably some side quests in it that I probably never did. It was very short. Like, I probably made it longer than it needed to be, but it's very short. It was meant to be episodic, which, in terms of RPGs, I'd rather have it in full. I gotta be honest. But, I did like some of the things it did. Like, it had a quest journal and stuff like that. I think that was pretty cool. Which, I'm sure that's an RPG Maker script somewhere. But the fact that it is here, it is pretty neat. So, still in Steam. I think it's gonna go above Lisa. And I'm even thinking about maybe putting it above Rhapsody. It's not gonna go. I can 100% say it's not gonna go above Cities World for sure. See, now I'm thinking of presentation. When it becomes between Steel and Steam and the Mineral Kingdom games we got on here. Because somebody will be it's like, oh wow, you put an RPG Maker game above like official released PS1 game RPGs. I'm like, maybe, yeah. Let me put it here and let me see how I feel. Also, Undertale music. I'm gonna turn down the volume just a little bit. Yeah, just in case. I'm comfortable with that. Like, every other game, I'll just say this, so far on this list, every game on here is a game that I have a lot of enjoyment with the exception of F-Zero RPG Remake. Every other game, there's some quality to it that I really enjoy. Still in Steam, I like how it is a more traditional RPG. Even more so than Little Princess. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that right now. ORPG. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually the first game I beat on stream. This was a very early on stream that I did. Hey, Final Fantasy VIII, cool. ORPG is an interesting take. It uses, I think everything in ORPG is like default assets. But what they did with this game is very interesting. It's hard. It's very unique what they did. They made it like, oh, you know, you're not playing as the main heroes. You're playing as like some of these side characters, kind of thing. It's interesting. I think at the time I wasn't too big on the difficulty at points. But I appreciate for trying to do something a little bit different. Even with the default assets. And I'm alright with that. Maybe at a later point in time, I'm going to start pointing out more and more about default assets. And I'll probably lower this game on the list. But ORPG, I appreciate it trying to do something different. It could have been like by the numbers RPG Maker game, and you can argue that it is. But the difficulty of this game really does kind of make it a little bit unique. At least out of the games I played. And, as well as some of the, it has a few unique mechanics to it as well. Now, in terms of ranking it, I know I just said I appreciate the difficulty of it, but I think at the same time... Okay, let me think of it this way. I would rather play Little Princess than ORPG any day. That's for sure. In fact... Yeah, I'm alright with that. And now that the way I'm thinking about that now... Well, I don't know. You know what? I think I would rather play Steel and Steam over Rhapsody. I gotta be honest. Final Fantasy VII music. Let me leave that there for right now. The Legend of Bean. Very, very odd RPG Maker game. When I first started, you can actually see in the streams of this game I did that they updated it and they changed how the battle mechanic worked because it was active time, and then they changed it to be more traditional, make it a little bit more easier. And a lot of people were like, "Well, you took the one thing that made it unique and just made it like any other RPG Maker game." And honestly, I was all right with the change because I like being able to take my time, process it, and whatnot. So, The Legend of Bean. First off, this game wasn't... okay, so this game has some weird translation stuff in it. I think if I'm not mistaken, there's a script in RPG Maker that kind of auto-translates some things, and I think they used that for English. And sometimes it came out a little weird. Okay, and I never 100%ed The Legend of Bean. I did try. I legitimately did try to complete The Legend of Bean 100%, but unfortunately, we ran into a few snags. We just could not find it. And the final boss was frustrating for this. Because unlike ORPG, and even unlike Cindy's World, like, Cindy's World was actually a pretty straightforward game, pretty easy, up until you get to the final boss. But at that point, when I got to Nil Realm in Cindy's World, it felt more like I was playing by his rules, and I had to play with what the game wanted me to. Not so much as, like, The Legend of Bean's like, oh, you have to be a certain level to have this skill to even stand a chance to get this final boss. Which I was a little put off by, unfortunately. But it was unique with how it handled its battle system. Even if we take away how they did the active time wheel, whatever they wanted to call it. Even after they took it out, it's like they handled the monsters and the sprites differently. It was goofy at times. It really was, I've learned that the phrase, loaf something 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 was an actual phrase. But, hey, remake music. I think it should be already have this playing. Let's see. I'm kind of thinking about putting it above Lisa, but... No, I think Lisa's too unique of an RPG Maker game that I would not put it below Legend of Bean. But I would definitely play Legend of Bean over ORPG. Or would I? I'm alright with that. Despite it being just nothing but default assets, I think it's edges out above Legend of Bean. Alright, Lisa the Pointless. Oh my god, I was holding back on streaming this game for a while and playing it in general. But I just gave in. I'm like, I want to play this now. Lisa the Pointless is great. I love how Pointless handles the party in this game. Even more so to a degree of painful. I think Pointless handles the way it handles its party members a little bit better. For one, yeah, it's a lot of a smaller cast for sure compared to Painful. But I just love the dynamic between Joel and Alex. God, I couldn't think of his name. And there is some sketchy stuff I've heard things about behind the scenes with the development team and how stuff is working there. When it comes to me ranking these, I think I mentioned it earlier, but when it comes to me ranking these, I'm trying to 100% focus on just the games themselves. Like, yeah, we might have some terrible people who may have worked on some of these games, and I will not fault for anybody taking that into consideration how they feel about a game. I will not take that from anybody. And I completely understand if somebody doesn't like a game because somebody behind it was an awful person. Even, but once again, I've only heard things about Pointless with some of the people behind the scenes. So, just because I heard of something, can't say it's 100% true or not. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't really look into it. But but just focusing back on Pointless itself, I really enjoyed this game. Like Painful, it does things different from RPG Maker games. It helps that Pointless is a fan game, and honestly, I'll be honest. Originally, this list was not going to have fan games and ROM hacks and stuff like that. Pointless is the reason why I am allowing fan games and ROM hacks and whatnot on this RPG list. It's thanks to Pointless. Because I think Pointless is fantastic. And to some degree, I think Pointless is better than Painful, but maybe we'll cross that line whenever I actually have Pointless or Painful on this list later down the road. But yeah, I'm hoping at some point we get the newer version of Pointless, as well as the other chapters of the game. I went to Ed's. Ed's like the main guy behind Pointless game. And it looks like there's nothing new. He did say he wanted this game out by the end of 2020. It didn't happen. If I'm not misremembering my dates. But yeah, one day I'm hoping Lisa the Pointless will get at least the additional chapters. I'm alright if it never gets to remake. I would rather have the story completed. But as of right now, Pointless has a lot of content to it, and I really enjoyed my time with Pointless. To the point where, honestly, I think I'm alright putting it right there. I think Lisa the Pointless is great. Good soundtrack, memorable characters. It doesn't have random encounters. It's all set, which is unique in a way. Like, ORPG did the same thing, actually. Where all the... I think ORPG did that. No. ORPG had random encounters in it. I think. It's been a little bit. But the way Painful and Pointless handles it is, for the most part, you're only doing set encounters. So you only, you only have so much you can go by. Pointless, there's a way... Or Painful... I'm getting them mixed up. Painful, there are some random encounters here and there you can grind on, and there's even a good grinding spot later on. Pointless, there's none of that. You have no random encounters in Pointless. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And I'm even debating and putting about Original Generations, but I think Original Generations is just too big of a game for Pointless to be able to up that. Maybe later on, when Pointless is completed, maybe someday, that it might actually beat out Original Generations. For now, I'm alright with that. Because with me, story is a big thing when it comes to RPGs. I say that with Mystic Quest being so high up, but yeah, I'm comfortable with that. 1v1 Battle Royale for the throne. For the longest time, this was on the bottom of the list. It's a goofy, short RPG Maker game. And honestly, I only did, I didn't even do the full game. Like, at the beginning of the game, you can choose 2 paths, but I think by the end of it, it's gonna be the same, either way. But, yeah, for the longest time, this was, on the bottom of the list. I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with the game. And once again, it does use a lot of default RPG Maker assets from what I recall. I promise once I do like a definitive video on this list, I'm going to do a lot more research on each entry and think back and whatnot. But for right now, this is just kind of a spur of a moment shot in the dark kind of thing, just going by memory. But yeah, 1v1 Battle Royale for the Throne. It's definitely goofy. I didn't dislike it or anything, but it definitely felt like one of those, this is a short RPG Maker game, just randomly on Steam kind of situation. Dragon Slayer. So for a while, I actually thought about putting this in the bottom of the list as well, but this was another case for like Legend of Bean, where English is the first language from the developer team of this, and I even think that still has the whole RPG Maker script English translation kind of situation going on, because some things just was kind of head scratching. If you actually looked it up, a lot of the things that I thought was unique when I first streamed this was actually DLC assets you can buy for RPG Maker that you can use. But I don't think a lot of people uses that, so. Dragon Slayer was funny. It was one I did not 100% complete. I mean, I beat the game, and I did most of the stuff on Dragon Slayer. It was very funny, and I did get the best ending as well. But the thing with Dragon Slayer was, at times, it just felt overly difficult. And unlike ORPG, I felt like it was overly difficult for no reason. Like, I felt like it was not quite tested fully. Like, yeah, it's beatable. I mean, heck, I beat it in one session. Well, like a 3-hour session, I think it was. Yeah, Dragon Slayer. Like, I'm thinking, do I want to put it above 1v1 or below 1v1? Like, the difficulty of Dragon Slayer, I think I want to put it below 1v1. But it was funnier to me than 1v1. I'm thinking. I'm going back and forth. It's between these two spots right here. And it's kind of funny I'm having such an internal conflict between the bottom of the list here. This is going to be bugging me forever. One v one was straight to the point about it. Dragon Slayer was difficult, and it was kind of... But the old man cursed at you about his fish, though. That was pretty funny. And the characters were a lot more unique in Dragon Slayer, despite how the English being a little silly. But that difficulty in Dragon Slayer just felt off for that kind of game. I think I'm going to keep it like that for right now. Because, yeah, I was saying, ORPG, it's difficult, but it felt right for that kind of game. Dragon Slayer's difficulty just didn't feel quite right. Okay, Escape from the Room. So, this RPG Maker game is very unique. Well, it's not. Oh, it is unique. It very is a unique game. But, yeah, also the other thing about it is, this is the same person. The person who made this is the person who would make, Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, which is a manga I've really gotten into. In fact, that's the reason why I actually played this, was, I was so into the manga. And then I found out the person who actually made the manga made an RPG Maker game. And this actually came out before the manga, if I'm not mistaken. But right after the creation of some of the ideas that would go into Miss Nagatoro, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is very... Oh, we got some Banner Brain music. Nice. But, this game is... it's like a very escape the room kind of game, which I think there's probably a lot more RPG Maker games that are like that. But over the years, I really haven't came across too many of those escape the room kind of games. But this also includes a battle. It comes with some funny stuff. This actually was originally in Japanese, but it did get an English patch, which is cool. And this game's completely free. You can get this game for free. You don't have to pay money for this game. I think this was a fun little thing. I think it's really cool to see what came before Miss Nagatoro. What ideas this would carry over into Miss Nagatoro. Heck, the anime actually makes a reference with this with some of the sprite works, which is I think is pretty cool. I think this game is so charming that I actually would put this maybe even above Cindy's World, actually. It's not going above Pixel Remaster. I know that for sure. Honestly, I'm having the debate in my head if I want to keep this above Dying Flame or Dying Flame above that. I'm like, okay, I think this is above this, and then I'm like, and then I do it, and I'm like, maybe not. I dang it. Oh, what the world is going on with this thing? Both are actually kind of similar if you think about it, in a way. I think the anime aesthetic might be getting a little bit higher up on me. Every time they switch spots, I want one above the other. It's not without fail here. Thank you. I'm gonna have to walk away from this because I'm probably gonna be debating about these two for a little bit. So let's go to the next game right now. Well, when I get all the games on the list, I'll look through it again. Disgaea One Complete. I love the Disgaea series. It is a contender for whichever one do I love more. Do I love Disgaea or do I love the Final Fantasy series? Disgaea 1 Complete. Okay, this is specifically the complete version. I have a few issues with the complete version. Complete is really bizarre to me in the points that they took time and effort, because this was a celebration of Disgaea's anniversary. Disgaea 1's anniversary. It wasn't 10 years. The 10-year anniversary of Disgaea 1 was Disgaea D2. But Disgaea 1 Complete has a lot of effort put into it, and at the same time does not have a lot of effort put into it. I am genuinely curious about the development of this version of Disgaea 1. Also some, interestingly sort of painful music going on here. But, yeah, Disgaea 1 Complete. I love some of the quality of life changes they made that no other version of Disgaea 1 has. At the same time, they took some lazy steps. Like, some of the monster replacements they did just did not make sense. If they went out of their way to do completely new HD sprites for some stuff, why didn't they do completely new HD sprites for some other stuff? I don't think it's just a matter of, oh, this is the newer version of this monster, so we're just going to replace it with this. When you have situations where the Bone Dragon took over the Chimera sprite, which does not make sense. You can make some arguments about, okay, the Imp being replaced by that makes sense. Oh, the Reaper enemy replacing the Reaper enemy in this one, you can make an argument that makes sense. But then you have situations where, when they go to do the old attack animations, it just kind of seems odd. Again, this is why Disgaea 1 Complete has it where there's a lot of effort put in here, but there's not a lot of effort put in here at some points. But overall, it is still Disgaea 1 at the end of the day. Because all the issues I had are graphical. And they legitimately did some quality of life changes in Disgaea 1, which you can make a contender of being the definitive version of Disgaea 1. I still probably would play PC version over this. Oh yeah, and the additional characters they did added specifically for this version were lazy. Unfortunately, they were really lazy. Like, Isagi doesn't even have any special abilities in this version against Disgaea. But again, at the end of the day, this is Disgaea 1. And this was Disgaea 1, this is the first time I ever beat Ball in Disgaea 1. I will be completely honest. It's a lot easier grinding in Disgaea 1 Complete. Even more so than the PC version, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because the quality of life changes they added is just specifically with this version of Disgaea 1. But I can't stop and say this is the definitive version of Disgaea 1. I think it's still an argument that you could say the PC version is the definitive version. And even then, you could probably even have the argument, well, the PSP version is the definitive version because of such and such and such. And then some people will say, oh no, the original PS2 version of Disgaea 1 is the definitive version. Yeah, I'll make the argument on that one. I can't, but for other versions, okay. But in terms of this list specifically, this is the only Disgaea game on this list right now. Disgaea 6 is actually not on this list right now because I'm still going through that. Even though I did beat the game, Disgaea 6 won't be on the list for the moment. But for right now, this is the only Disgaea game. I think out of all the Disgaea games, this is probably one of the weakest entries, maybe? This particular version of Disgaea 1. However, it's still Disgaea at the end of the day. And more specifically, it's simple Disgaea. Because later on, Disgaea would get more complex as it goes on with the series. Which is good, don't get me wrong. Despite my flaws that I have with Disgaea 1 Complete, all being graphical, mind you, with the exception of some of the additional party members they added, for particularly this version, I think it's number one on the list right now. Yeah, I'm alright with that. Now, the newest entry, Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster. Easy. Easy number one for me. Pixel Remaster. It doesn't have the additions that later ports of Final Fantasy IV had. I'm comfortable with that. Some people might not be alright with that. I can understand that. There are some bugs here and there. They said they're going to fix it. But as far as I know, the bugs... Okay, I was about to say they were just graphical, but that's not true. I think it encountered that weird attack an enemy bug. That was, I selected one enemy, but then it attacked a different enemy. That was a little weird. It didn't happen often, but it was there. But Final Fantasy IV is great. I could be very well just saying this because we just got done playing it. Could very well be saying that too. And over time, this might drop down the list. I don't know. But, I love Final Fantasy IV. It is... I'm not joking when I say it's a number... like a top 5 Final Fantasy contender. For me. And I didn't even play this game when it first came out. Like, I mean, when it first came out, I was only a year old. But, like, I paid the PlayStation version of this. And this was even after Final Fantasy VII. Which is, like, an all-time favorite of mine. And even after playing 7, and even possibly... I think I played 8 before I played 4. I was still blown away by 4. I loved 4 when I first played it. I love the characters. I just love everything about 4. And I think 4 is simple, too. I still recommend this as being somebody's first RPG if they want to give it a shot. Or at the very least, anybody who's not played a Final Fantasy game and wants to experience a classic Final Fantasy game, I would actually recommend this before 6 for anybody trying to get into Final Fantasy. At least classic Final Fantasy. I think it's simple. I think it's straightforward. I like it. I like Final Fantasy IV. It's a very good game. When I get to later Disgaea games, it will probably be trumped. But I am comfortable. At the very least, I'm comfortable with putting Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster above Disgaea One Complete. 100%. Despite, I would probably put more time into Disgaea One Complete, for sure. But, I'm alright with that. And then we got one more game, which is pretty funny that this is the last game. Parking Cop Simulator. Oh my goodness. Very weird idea that I can actually get behind, but it dragged on. But I guess that's kind of the point, because it's Parking Cop Simulator? I think it just got too monotonous. It used quite a bit of default assets for Parking Cop Simulator, but it also used some original assets too, as far as I know it were original. But, yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm actually alright putting that above Dragon Slayer, but below 1v1. So let me look through this list now. So we got, there's supposed to be 19 games total. Yeah, it's 19. And once again, like I said, I could put Disgaea 6 on here, but I'm not quite done getting a full thing out of Disgaea 6. And I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like if I put it on here well, at least a couple weeks ago, it would have been a little bit lower. But I come to appreciate Disgaea 6 quite a bit. I still have some flaws with Disgaea 6, but we'll get there when we get there. But who knows when I'm ever going to do another video on this. But let me go through here real quick, see if I'm comfortable with everything right now. I'm actually going to take an image of this and post it on Twitter too. Let's see. It might help if I read this out loud, actually. Let's start bottom up. Or, let's start from the top. Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster. Disgaea One Complete. Super Wobble Wars OG Original Generations. Lisa the Pointless. Mystic Quest. Nostalgia is playing really hard with Mystic Quest. I won't even lie. One side of me says yes, one side of me says no. I'm leaning towards more putting Mystic Quest above Pointless. But my brain side of me wants me to keep Pointless above Mystic Quest. I think I'm going to go with that. Pixel Remaster. I think this kind of sealed it here. Yeah. Yeah. Again, this list is always changing. This is by no means definitive. The more games that gets added on here, the more complex and complicated it's going to be in my head to do this. Which I'm eagerly looking forward to. Escape from the Room. Dying Flame. This is the one I've been going back and forth a lot. The most out of this whole list, I feel like. Sydney's World. Steel and Steam. Rhapsody. Little Princess. That's another one I've been going back and forth on. How do I feel about that? How do I feel about that? Some ways I'm alright with it, other ways I'm not. I think I'm alright with that for the most part. Yeah. I kind of respect what RPG did. I'm not gonna lie. As weird as it is, and as I was 7, I might have gotten at that points in that during that streams. I don't know, man. Lisa is just so unique. But so is RPG. I'm gonna be here all day, but I don't need to be. The Legend of Bean, 1v1 Battle Royale for the Throne, Parking Cop Simulator, that makes me laugh every time. Dragon Slayer, F-Zero. Yeah, as monotonous as a Parking Cop Simulator was, just Dragon Slayer's difficulty. Yeah. I'm alright with this. I'm alright with this list as of right now. Like, there's a few highlights here that I'm having a little bit difficulty with, but overall, I'm alright with this until I put Disgaea 6 on this list. But I don't know when the next time I'm actually going to stream this again. There's no guarantee that I'm going to be doing this again anytime soon. Because originally I thought I was never going to do this until I get to 100 games, but, you know, this is the second time I've done this now, so who knows. Alright, yeah, I'm comfortable with this. I'm going to end the stream for now. We've been going about 4 hours, which is about right for my day off. I'm more than likely going to be back later tonight and streaming. Not too sure what exactly, but I will be back tonight. But yeah, I want to thank everybody who came out, checked out the stream. Thanks to everybody who catches a replay later on. I want to thank everybody who argues, who yells at me about my positions with some of these games, which is completely justifiable. Because at the end of the day, this is my list. This is not a be-all, end-all RPG list. Oh god, by all means, no. Because this is just my personal RPG list, which is going to get more sillier and sillier as I add more games on here. But yeah, that's going to be it for me. Take care, everybody. Brush your teeth, and yeah, take easy.